Wow, right? That's a song written by Joe Jenks, based, of course, on the reading that we all know so well. And he shared with me, Joe Jenks did, that it wasn't necessarily written by St. Francis, though it's attributed to St. Francis. That happened in the 20s. It appeared in a Quaker publication with St. Francis next to it. But the first appearance of it was actually, I think, 1912, and that was in a French publication. But that prayer speaks to our hearts, doesn't it? And beautiful job, the way bringing that prayer to life with the music, Ron and our Unity team. When we experience that prayer, it can become a living field of consciousness that we live into. And that's a beautiful thing. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Love, make me an instrument of your peace. Law, make me an instrument of your peace. Light, make me an instrument of your peace. Is that not what we're here for? To sow love, to sow forgiveness, to sow peace. It's our spiritual purpose, is it not? If there's one thing that seems to be clear to most people in this journey of what am I here for, most people can agree love is part of that picture. Love is part of that purpose. There's a story I want to share with you. It's become very special to me as a teaching story. And it's about a dad teaching his son some tools on that journey of purpose in life. Some tools that will help save his son from undue suffering if the son is able to get the lesson. It starts like this. There was once a little boy who had a bad temper. His father gave him a bag of nails and told him that every time he lost his temper, he must hammer a nail into the back of the fence. The first day, the boy had driven 37 nails into the fence. Over the next few weeks, as he learned to control his anger, the number of nails hammered daily gradually dwindled down. He discovered it was easier to hold his temper than to drive those nails into the fence. Finally, the day came when the boy didn't lose his temper at all. He told his father about it, and the father suggested that the boy now pull out one nail for each day that he was able to hold his temper. The days passed on, and the young boy was finally able to tell his father that all the nails were gone. The father took his son by the hand and led him to the fence. He said, "You have done well, my son, but look at the holes in the fence. The fence will never be the same. When you say things in anger, you leave a scar just like this one." We are here on this life journey, this spiritual journey, as co-creators. Part of the blessing, and sometimes part of the curse, is that our lives have effects, right? It has an effect. It has effects on others. It has effects on the consciousness in our world in which we live. I love that story because it's about mindfulness. It's about asking that question that can sometimes be hard to ask and face in ourselves. That question, how do I contribute to suffering? How do I contribute to suffering in myself or with others? Not necessarily a fun question, right? But it can be a very liberating one. Acting unmindfully creates effects. One of my favorite practices in the Buddhist meditation practice is that point at the end where you may hold the prayer or the blessing that says, "May all beings have freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings have freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering." So it is on this spiritual path, each one of ours, to ask in every moment, with every action or every inaction, am I causing unity? Am I causing love? Am I causing light? Or am I in a moment asleep or awake, causing suffering, causing pain, causing separation? There's an anonymous saying that says, "Enjoy every moment you have, because in life there are no rewinds, only flashbacks. Make sure it's all worth it. I think that in that lesson, in that story, the father was trying to teach his son about living life with better flashbacks. Because we don't get a rewind button, do we? I think we've all had times in our lives where we've watched ourselves being a part of generating what we really don't wish to prosper, what we really don't wish to put out there, a field of consciousness that we really don't want to live within. But if it comes from us and it comes through us, we generally live within it until we transform it, right? That's the principle and that's the practice. The human condition can be that we sometimes fall off of our purpose. We have moments of awakening and we have moments lost in illusion where the veil of separation seems to be very real. And in that, we create effects. But there is a practice that can help tether us to mindful action. Anyone that's discovered A Course in Miracles and the teaching there, it really goes to the basis of that there are two things. There's fear and love. Everything is an expression or an emanation of one or the other. Everything is either in line with love and in line with fear. And if we're confused about that, we can just take an authentic moment to step into it with ourselves and in our world and say, if I had to put it with one, even if it doesn't seem like it really fits, if I had to put it with one, which does this idea, action, experience go along with, fear or love? There's another practice of looking at the ordinary versus the extraordinary. Doing a self-check. I can live ordinary. Is that what I'm committed to? Or am I ready to live in the extraordinary? And what would that call for? And how can I be in alignment with that vision of living in the extraordinary? There's also living in progress, according to the law of infinite expansion, or living from our programming. Living on the merry-go-round of life or the Ferris wheel where we continue going through the same motions and going through the same actions that are not furthering our development or furthering our consciousness or furthering the evolution of the world. There is also the idea that we are always part of one or the other, part of the problem or part of the solution. Some good checkpoints, no? To live our life by, to check our consciousness by, our thoughts, our actions. There are some pits that take us off of what we consider to be the high road of our spiritual journey. And in unity, we practice and we know that even though there are experiences of injury and experiences of missing the mark, that's just part of the human journey as well, right? Part of why we're here is to grow all over each other, and that can be messy and that can be ugly and that's not always fun, but that's a gift. They say, in fact, that you can be more connected to the people that you feel victimized by on a soul level. The stronger that connection than someone that you feel neutral about. So those that we love and those that, the things that we love and the things that drive us crazy could equally be part of our spiritual journey, our unfoldment of consciousness, our awakening. And in that way, there can be gratitude in every moment. But what are some tools to wake us up, to get us out of the conversations that makes us just spin around, that might actually have us be part of unmindful living? I made a little acronym for the word drama because it really all boils down to drama, doesn't it? Drama. Here's my acronym. Are you ready? Desires rebelling against mindful action. Desires rebelling against mindful action. So whenever I'm in drama, which we're all in drama sometimes, right? That's the first step, getting it. But whenever I'm in drama, can I just pause and recognize, it's just simple. I just have some desires that are rebelling against mindful action. So what might be one of those desires in the human condition? One of those desires might be the rumor mill, the gossip chamber. We've all taken part in it. We've all grown and learned from it. And on the spiritual path, it's good to just check in and see where we are. Gossip is considered to be unconstrained conversation casual conversation, reports about other people, or conversations about what's not confirmed to be true. Do you know that there are studies that show a negative rumor can cost a company billions of dollars? There's marketing techniques designed to silence rumors the moment they happen. Because even when sometimes it's found that they're not true, it's been out there, right? Is this good timing for this conversation? If anyone's watching the media lately on an election year, right? It doesn't matter where your political stance is, you still always have the opportunity to see the rumor mill, right? And we have the opportunity, if we're in integrity with our wisdom, to check facts, to let go of stories, to not engage them. Otherwise, you could spin around on the wheel and go crazy, right? Think about all that dragging with your emotions, your thoughts, your this, your that. Oh, is this true? Is that true? It's exhausting, is it not? It leaks energy. And you know what else it leaks? Not just energy, but it leaks integrity, doesn't it? Doesn't it? The only thing that does is actually cause the sharer to lose credibility, right? It damages character. It actually lets ideas and expressions become distorted. And it actually serves to break trust and to create the opposite of what we know is safety. And it prospers what we call the pain body. It prospers experiences of illusion. In Matthew 12:36, it says, "But I say to you that for every idle word," and in the different versions, it's idle, rash, inconsiderate, empty. "For every idle word that man, woman may speak, they will give an account for it on the day of judgment." That sounds a little scary, doesn't it? In Unity, we practice that day is this moment, every moment. And it's not something that's going to happen to you. It's going to happen through you and through your field of consciousness. It's going to happen through me and through my field of consciousness, because I cannot put out what I'm not willing to experience. I cannot project something and expect that I will stay safe from it. And the repercussions in consciousness may feel immediate because I may be aware of it, or may be gradual. But regardless, I must live in the consciousness that I create. It's a field of activity. Am I willing to make it ordinary, or am I willing to make it extraordinary? In Ephesians 4:29, it says, "Do not let any unwholesome," and the fun other translations are corrupt, filthy, hateful, "talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. Only what is good and useful for improvement, that may benefit those who listen, that you may give grace to those who hear." Does that sound extraordinary or ordinary? Extraordinary. Yet we have so many options, don't we? We have so many options of how we show up. And it's up to us whether or not we act from our reactions and our pain bodies, or whether or not we pause and stand in that foundation. Love, law, Lord, God, life, light. Here I am to be an instrument of peace. It's part of the journey of the human condition, walking through the expansive path of expressing God consciousness. We all know the little kindergarten statement that it says that we teach the little kids, if you can't say it to someone's face, then don't say it at all. But that's not just a practice for kindergartners, is it? They might have it down, right? If you can't say it to someone's face, don't say it at all. And we might not always have the courage to stand in that. Is that okay? But you know what? When we can take it on for ourselves, as a little voice, like that little chirp we have going on in the sanctuary today, like a little bird sitting on our shoulder, just mindfully always saying, how would I phrase this if they were here? How would I express this if someone was videotaping me, tweeting me, Facebooking me? Because there is always an opportunity to speak from our own personal experience in the language of transformation and in the language of accountability and responsibility. And that doesn't create holes and fences. That actually creates even more mindfulness. And then there's also the opportunity to do the other. Here's the next practice. The next practice is this: avoid triangulation. Now, when I've done prayer chaplaincy training the folks that pray, and anytime you work in groups or family systems, this is part of the principle and the practice. Avoid triangulation. And always the first question I ask people is, do you know what triangulation is? I got a lot of fun answers in prayer training. Is it Father, Son, Holy Spirit? Is it mind, idea, expression? No, it's like, it's okay. All those get to talk to each other anytime. No. Triangulation is that idea that if there is something between me and you, it should go in a straight line. When the triangle is created and there's a third party, then it becomes dysfunctional. Unless that third party is consciously invited in for processing, for uplifting, for awakening consciousness, for transforming energies, for simply being a presence of learning to move through one's experience, but consciously, mindfully, responsibly. So that would look something like me saying to someone else, can you presence me? But here's the little asterisk note. What I'm saying is not truth. What I'm saying is my experience. It's my perception and my perspective. And I'm sharing this in hopes that it will be transformed in the midst of this listening. Can you presence that for me? Can you be with me in that? But if it is to generate and to prosper and to victimize and to get more stuck, then what happens? We just played the phone game. So who got a phrase for telephone? Who's going to raise their hand and share? What did you get when we played the game of telephone earlier in the service? Yeah, I had Lane on my list. First, let's ask Lynn. Lynn, what did you get? I will see you by the seashell. Anyone else? Anyone from the back? Yeah, yellow. Let's sit by the sea like the seashells in the sun. That's a beautiful one. Lane, what did you get? Singing to the sea by a seashell with a bush light. Sitting by the sea, singing to the seashells. Good translations. None of them correct. We got one more, all right. Okay, say it again. Sitting by the seashore with the seashells, soaking up the sun. You, my friend, are the closest. Let's sit singing by the sea with seashells and soak up the sun. Did anyone get that? Raise your hand if you got that. Yeah. So what does this fun little kindergarten game teach us? What does it demonstrate? There is very, very little likelihood that an expression from the moment it leaves my mouth and goes out into the ethers, there is very, very little likelihood that it will reflect the consciousness or the intention from which I launched it. When we're not aware of that, holes and fences. There is very little probability that by the time it gets around and comes back or reaches its destination, very little probability and possibility if I'm on my walk of transformation and discovery and journey into peace and God consciousness that I'll be in the same place that I'll even want to take ownership of it anymore, right? Right? It won't even be real to me. It will have dispersed back into the nothingness from which it was born if I'm on my journey, right? So triangulation, adding others into the mix. And it's not always a practice of these things we think of as hurtful. It can also be in practices of sharing good news. Has anyone ever spoiled good news? They're having a baby. They're getting married. They got together. Right? It's not just they broke up, this or that, right? But it can happen when we don't check in with the question, is this mine to share? The obvious part is, what's my intention in sharing this? But the less obvious can be, is this mine to share? There is a consciousness in folks who have this practice down. Many of us have run into them. Many of us are working on being them, right? But imagine what our world is when we stand in that consciousness of, when I see you, I'll stop to bless you. I'll let the words of my mouth and my mind always love and caress you. It's a good goal, isn't it? It's something to strive for. It's something to reach for. What happens when we don't go to the source is that we get secondhand news, third-hand news. When that happens, we can actually wake up and be angry with ourselves. Not with necessarily other people, if we're really taking responsibility, but with ourselves for the lack of mindfulness or the lack of clarity. It can feel to the self like we've betrayed our own wisdom, our own sense of guidance and wisdom. And when we really recognize that we've leaked our creative power and created that which we didn't want to prosper, we can feel like we've put holes in our own fence. Mother Teresa says, if you judge people, you have no time to love them. If you judge people, you have no time to love them. The Buddha said, nothing ever exists entirely alone. Everything is in relation to something else. Nothing ever exists entirely alone. Everything is in relation to something else. Have you ever heard that little phrase about a story that goes, there are 3 versions to every story? My version, your version, and the truth. My version, your version, and the truth, right? Because life is all perspectives, perceptions, and experience. When we really get that, it becomes easier to take a step back from ego, to take a step back from reaction, to take a step back from prospering that which we don't want to prosper, and to actually be a presence for healing. But an ego never healed an ego. Hurt never healed hurt. Anger never heals anger. So what do we do? Anything less than mindfulness can prosper suffering, can project, can pass on. And the pain body loves to prosper, promote, and pass on suffering. And everyone has a pain body. Rumi said, the fault is in the blamer. Spirit sees nothing to criticize. Can we get in touch with our spirit? Can we call it forth? So that instead of serving the ego, we serve the spirit as an instrument of peace. When in doubt, it behooves us to sit and to watch, to simply watch the thoughts, to watch the mind, to watch the story, to watch the conversations, to watch the blamer. Everyone has a victim, has a blamer, has a high consciousness, has an awareness, right? When we really get that, then these spaces where we meet in between become less scary. They actually become beautiful, beautiful spaces and places for healing, for love, and for God. Mindful response. The other option is always to watch rather than to internalize, to remember I am not my mind, I am not my emotions, I am not my thoughts. As crazy as that sounds, I am not my mind, I am not my emotions, and I am not my thoughts. And to behold each other, each one on this path with us, and to say that same truth, to respond from that space. Are we willing to let the stories stop here? Are we willing to let the stories stop here? Whether it's in our world, in our politics, in our family systems, in our relationships, in our work lives, in our congregation, wherever it is, because if we're willing to let it stop here in community, what do we have to practice first? Letting it stop here in the mind. Now, fair warning, if we take on this charge to engage more consciously in this practice, a few things might happen. Has anyone ever had caffeine withdrawal? Really bad headache? I can't go to Starbucks 2 days in a row and then not go the next day, or I'm in trouble. I got to do like one and then a half and then down and then off. Right? That is one of the things that can happen on this path. The first thing, you'll feel it. We'll feel it, right? The first thing is we'll feel it. The second thing that will happen on the path of transformation is that it won't be as attractive to engage. It just won't be as attractive. And the third thing that will happen is that we'll notice how much time we save running around in injury, running around on the merry-go-round, and we'll begin to engage the practice of just letting it roll off. And when that happens, a burst of peacefulness, grace, and joy starts to expand within our lives and within our consciousness. We can always bring it back to me. And if that practice doesn't help so much, I found this little self-therapy sheet. And it says this, because we can always in unity, right, take it back to the self. What am I going through? What's happening in me? Here we go. Self-therapy, psychodrama of the moment. How do I feel about it? Angry, scared, joyful, sad, cynical, powerless, persecuted, numb. How do I really feel? Relieved, depressed, stressed, alienated, excited, envious, ashamed. This problem likely stems from mother, father, spouse, children, other people, me, chocolate, no chocolate, inner child, original sin, early weaning, boundary issues, brain chemistry, basic unlovability, bad luck. The next section of our worksheet. Relevant present influences, list them. Relevant past issues, list them. What it all means, and my breakthrough. And on the bottom, you get to check a box. Actual therapy required? Medication, please. Everybody else is crazy, or I'm so evolved. So let us follow in the words of Mother Teresa and be kinder than necessary. People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people may accuse you of selfish motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you may win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. Do it anyway. Honesty and transparency make you vulnerable. Be honest and transparent anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People who really want to help may attack you if you help them. Help them anyway. Give the world the best you have, and you may get hurt. Give the world your best anyway. Namaste.